Hi, this is Nicole Burkholzer of Mindful Connections, and this is the Red Sofa series. My mission is to mindfully connect horses and humans, and with this show, I'll bring you expert perspectives on everything equine and mindful ponderings from our own backyard. May you be informed, inspired, and mindfully connected.
It is scientifically proven that wild horses and those domesticated are genetically one and the same, which means the horse in our backyard is still hardwired to roam wide open spaces and to eat small bits of grasses, bushes, and branches over a period of 18 plus hours a day. In the wild, horses travel between 8 and 20 miles daily. This amount of movement keeps their hoofs naturally trimmed, the intestinal tracts in motion, and their minds engaged. The reality for domestic horses looks very different. Many are locked in stalls for most of the day, get only fed in the AM and PM, and see the blacksmith every 6 weeks to change the metal shoes. When Jamie Jackson, veteran of natural hoof care and author of the book Paddock Paradise, came onto the scene, the life of the domestic horse had a chance to change. Jamie is a proponent of natural boarding, where the horse is allowed to behave and move naturally according to its instinct. Today, I want to introduce you to a horse owner that has implemented a great paddock paradise in her own backyard.
Hi, this is Nicole Burkholzer with Mindful Connections on the Red Sofa. I'm here today with my friend Joyce Worsness, and she has actually created an ideal setting in her backyard for her horses so that they can actually live as naturally and as much in a lifestyle that is meant for horses. And I would love to introduce you to her and have her share a little bit of her experiences. Hi, Joyce.
Hey, Nicole.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
So you have two horses on the property here right now.
Right.
So one is your horse, your pony lady, and then you have another horse, Kaylee.
Right. Kaylee is here, and Kaylee is companion at this point for Lady, and she came to rehab from a situation and has actually made such a great companion, the two of them, that she has remained here and will stay here.
So how, when you say rehab, how did you rehab her through the Paddock Paradise? Has that helped this horse at all, you know, get better and more fit or more, you know, physically well?
Right, it has. The reason she came probably wasn't part of it. She just needed healing time for a incident that she had and had stitches.
Okay.
But she also was on Adequan, and so since being here, her owner Diane has had her under chiropractic care for a couple of visits, and because of the chiropractic care and the fact of the movement that she gets from the Paddock Paradise, Diane has been able to take her off the Adequan.
Oh wow! So because she had, I think, some hock and stifle issues or something, right?
I'm not even sure.
Yeah, because I remember something, and so I didn't realize that she is actually off the Adequan now.
She has been for
That's
several
huge.
months.
So because she's just allowed to move around and you know, constantly doing what horses should be doing, moving.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
And these two have access to the barn, to the pasture, and the Paddock Paradise, and are never closed in. So they come in at night to have dinner and eat their hay, but then they have the freedom to leave their stalls and go back to the pasture or the Paddock Paradise or whatever place they want to be. It is their choice.
Yeah. So no locking them in. But I know also, which I think this is one of the advantages of a Paddock Paradise, is that the horses' hoofs are usually in way better shape, and a lot of rehabbing gets done through Paddock Paradise, where the horses are not standing in a stall in their own, urine and getting infections and thrush and all the different things that can happen. They obviously wear their feet much more naturally, and they don't need as much hoof care even, because they just trim them, on the ground. In your case, I know you have stone dust in the front of your barn, and then you have the pasture, and the actual track is more or less pine needles and a few rocks, but not a lot. So are you thinking at all to institute something like gravel or pea stone, like it is recommended usually, just to create even a little more abrasion for your for the natural wear of the hoof?
Yes, that somewhere down the line that will be part of it, that I will find a section either just coming down into this area for them or somewhere out in the Paddock Paradise that they will have to have some rocky terrain to go over. We're able to take them out into the driveway, which is dirt driveway, graveled, and up the road, because it has stone on parts of it.
Yeah.
They're getting that exchange of something different, and they're getting a
Yeah, they're working it, in different ways right now, where you just, when you take them on walks, have the ability to
have the advantage of what I'm missing in the Paddock Paradise.
Yeah.
And on the other half of the property is the river, and so we're even able to take them down to the river, and there's a part of the bank that we can go down to, and they can actually go down and get a drink and stand in the water.
Yeah.
But that's only when we take them out. But they have that advantage.
Yeah, because also what you're mentioning is that often horses don't have the opportunity to have their feet in any moisture, because the only moisture is the urine they sit on in their stalls. But the ideal would be that there is different terrain, like it would be out in nature. If the horses are wild, where they are go into a river to drink, and then they come back out on the highlands to graze, and then they go into the woods to rest and all that stuff. So what you're saying is you don't have the river, but I think sometimes I've seen it, people put around the water bucket, they set up a little area that is a bit of a low point where the water will actually stay even around the water source, and put even gravel on top of that, or some pea stone, to kind of to simulate what would be done in nature. So yeah, there are lots of things to do, and there's a great book out there by Jamie Jackson, Paddock Paradise. So for anybody that's interested in this, they should definitely take a look at it. That's there's just tons of ideas and different setups and ways how to create it. And I think what's really cool is it's also something that can be done on a very, very small acreage. I mean, I've seen places that were 1 acre lots, and they set it up. Yours is obviously larger. I mean, you probably have 1.5 acres just in the woods, and then you have all this other stuff around it. But it definitely enhances your property and the ability to move on a property that's even of small acreage.
Right.
That's great. So any other thoughts of what you think might be useful for people to know when they go about this?
They have access to anywhere they want to be by their choice, that they're totally content within the environment that they have, so they're not challenging fences, they're not challenging gates, they're not running you over to get out a gate when you open the gate, and they're just, in my opinion, I think they're just very content, because their day is their choice.
Yeah. And then what we also noticed, and you have shared that several times with me, is that you see them also reverting back to some of the more wild and natural behavior. So let's talk about the pines and the rock licking and those things. Share a little with that.
Okay. So there have been times that there is a certain rock up the top of the pasture area here that I have seen both of them licking the base of the rock. And so obviously there's something there that either they're lacking or it's just
minerals they probably get from those rocks,
that they're supplementing themselves for something that they're missing, and they're given that.
which is one of the things actually also mentioned in Jamie's book, is that horses at times, he had observed that the horses would paw the ground out in the wild, and they would paw and paw and paw to find like salt in the earth or minerals or anything that they naturally know they're lacking at a certain moment in time. You know, that doesn't mean that they have to do it all the time, but it's just like it's something their system is craving, and then they satisfy it by finding it out in the woods. So, I mean, that's great that your horses, you know, figured out which rock it is that needs to, or that gets to provide the supplement
they want. And then the other thing that we witnessed them doing last summer was, there's obviously in the paddock paradises all of the pines, and there were some of them that were just smaller pines growing, and we were sitting out there one day with them and watching Lady as she got into the pine tree and started what we thought she was scratching herself. And after a while we're sitting there and Diane said, "It smells like Christmas." And then we realized that she was kind of getting the oils of the pine going, and then later did some research to find out that pine is an insect repellent. So she was out there.
She was rubbing herself down on some pine trees.
Repelling herself.
Yeah. And how great is that?
Continued to do it throughout the whole summer, so that we would just crack up every time we saw her
That's
in there
so
doing
cool.
that.
So cool.
So, yep. And at times, you know, nibbling on the pines. We've seen both of them kind of just go in and just nibble a little bit on the pines, and my assumption is again, they're just taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
That there is something available to them that they feel that they need at that time, and because it's not a regular thing they do. It's just periodically.
Yeah, exactly. They do it when they need it.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's a really good point, because you also mentioned to me at one earlier that you would love to even plant some herbs or different, you know, weeds or you know, things that could be medicinal plants that they have a choice to eventually get to. And I think that's a great idea to study this, and there are people you know, that obviously have information on how to do this type of a setup so that the animal can actually go and grab whatever it needs at any given time. And I think the idea of putting different trees and different bark, and I know you don't want them to nibble the live trees necessarily, but sometimes I've heard that people put just trunks or pieces of, you know, branches overnight of different trees, and because in nature they go nibble on brush and everything. You know, the problem that we have here, especially in the Northeast, we have so much dairy pasture, and dairy pasture is obviously not, that's meant for cows, that's not meant for horses. Horses in the wild travel 18 to 22 miles a day because they have scrappy stuff to eat on, you know, and they eat brush and bush and grass and different things. So what we provide them here, this opulent meal of dairy grass, is really not meant for their systems, because horses eat for 18 hours a day most often. So if they eat that rich grass all the time, all day long, it can become toxic to their system. So to have much less of a rich diet and much more variety of different things, I think is really something to consider. And if we could bring, you know, just a couple branches. I mean, I always throw my Christmas trees out into the pasture so they nibble on that. But I think it's really worthwhile thinking about putting some extra stuff in where they can wear their teeth off a little and, you know, do all the stuff that they would naturally do.
Right.
And you have already a setup that is, you know, pretty much close to perfect to what they
few things. Yeah, they can also go out on the trails, and we find when we take them out on the trails too that there are times that they will go for certain leaves on the trees, and then every now and again go by and there will be branches, and they will, you know, kind of just take a nibble off a branch or something.
Yeah.
And so again, something that's not within the Paddock Paradise, but is outside of it and available to them when we go out in the trails.
Yeah, right. And that's obviously a very mindful thing, because a lot of people, I think, when the horse goes out, you know, you don't want them to be snatching branches and snatching grass and whatnot, but there's a way to understand, is this just a behavioral issue that the horse goes and snatches, or is there actually like a benefit to it? And that's when you have to really be tuned into your horse to understand what is he or she doing. And that's you know, when you have a relationship like you have with your horse, obviously you know what she's up to. Because she's a pony after all. She might be going just for the grass.
Well, and it's kind of trusting. I've gotten to the point of trusting that neither of them are starving, and so that when they take something or go for something, that it's obviously something that is safe for them to be eating.
Yeah.
And I've kind of, over the time that I've had them, realized that they know way better than I do what's good for them. You know, I mean, I've tried to handle the ice situation for them in the winter and stuff, and then sat back and watched them and thought they have a much better handle on all that than I do. So just leave them to their own, because they know how to take care of themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. Awesome. So any final thoughts on what you feel, anything you want to say that what has been really valuable about it, or do you feel we covered pretty much everything?
I think we've covered the essence of what a Paddock Paradise is, and just basically that for the benefit of the horse and the movement that they are allowed with such an environment is just incredible for both the human watching them and the horse enjoying.
I know. You get as much a kick out of this Paddock Paradise as your horse.
I do, and I spend a great deal of time out there with them, and especially because it's the pine forest during the summer, they go out there at 5 in the morning and don't come back down into the barn area till 5 at night, because it's just such a much cooler environment, and they're obviously so content. And again, it's great because they've got that freedom of choice. I'm not saying you need to go, come, stay. They can make that choice themselves.
And they're moving all day long while they're out there.
Constantly on the go.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This is really great. You created a total paradise for your horses, and I always talk about it because I think the way you set this up is just absolutely magnificent, and I just love it that you know you took the time and made the effort of creating something that is so beautiful and important to your horses. And I see them all the time, and I know they're happy horses. So thank you so much for sharing your work with everybody.
Thank you.
So thanks for watching, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about the Paradise Paddock and other things with you on the Red Sofa series. So tune in again, and I'll see you next time. No, this is my spot. You can go over here. Go over there. Oh, I love you. Do you want to come over here?